Well, it's that time of the week again. The NFC West Huddle is back. The calendar has turned to September. School's back in session. That means we have actual games that will count to talk about. So let's bring in our panel. Alongside Ryan Dyrud of LAFB Network in Los Angeles, Blake Neiman in Phoenix, and Bailey O'Carroll back in San Francisco. I'm Ethan McReynolds in Seattle. Guys, as we tape this Thursday afternoon, we are just hours away from the NFL season officially starting. I cannot believe it. And then obviously all of our teams in action in just a few days on Sunday. So let's get right to our first question. How is your team looking health-wise as Week 1 approaches? And what's the main talking point around your squad this week? Blake, let's go over to you. Start with you and the Cardinals.
Yes, some disappointing injury news to start the season for the Cardinals. It kind of lingered on from training camp, but first-round pick Walter Nolan has been placed on the PUP list due to a calf injury. For Cardinal fans, they'll remember this happened similarly to their first-round pick from last year in Darius Robinson. He had a calf injury that kept him out for the first few weeks of the season. So definitely a big loss there for the Cardinals on the defensive line. And then from also injuries from training camp and back to mini camp, two of their starting corners from last season in Starling Thomas and Sean Murphy Bunting are both going to be out this entire season due to serious knee injuries they suffered. So some replacements in the back end are going to have to step up, especially second-round pick Will Johnson. But all eyes in terms of storylines heading into Week 1, it's the Marvin Harrison Kyler Murray connection. Kyler Murray spoke to the media yesterday and talked about how his connection with Marvin Harrison Jr. is night and day from when they first drafted him fourth overall in 2024. He says that Marvin is now more amped to come up to Kyler, start conversations. If you know Marvin Harrison Jr., he's more of a reserved guy, kind of stays to himself, but has been more vocal and communicative with Kyler Murray. And Kyler Murray said that he thinks the Cardinals have the chance to be the best offense in the league. It's a bold statement, but you know the connection with Marvin Harrison Jr. is the best place to start to try and make that happen.
Yeah, Blake, I'm not going to lie. If Marvin Harrison goes off this year, I will be a little bit jealous. He was my second-round pick in fantasy football last year, and shocker, I did not make the playoffs. So don't exactly want that to happen. We will wait and see how that looks in Week 1 with the Cardinals. Ryan Dyrud, LAFB Network, over to you now. Lots of questions about Matthew Stafford throughout the offseason. We're coming up to games now. What's the latest with him, and how's the rest of the injury report look for the Rams?
Yeah, Ethan, well, first off, I feel like the elder statesman now, a whole new panel this week. Like, I'm like the wily vet now here on the NFC West Huddle. But, you know, all the talk, we've talked about it ad nauseum, even on this show, has been about Matthew Stafford, his back. We've talked about Alaric Jackson, and as he's coming back from blood clots at the left tackle position. As of this taping, there are 0 players on the Rams injury report heading into the year. So they have a full bill, or a clean bill of health, I should say. All the momentum right now. Obviously, the big question will be how Matthew Stafford's back reacts when he takes that first hit. Hasn't been touched in training camp, probably hasn't been breathed on in training camp, but he has been a full go the past 2 weeks, and all indications are looks great. No limitations, can make all the throws, everything that Sean McVay loves to say about his quarterback, he has said. Alaric Jackson also has been fully participating in practice at the middle of this week, I believe starting on Wednesday, so has had some contact finally. Obviously, when you're coming back from blood clots, you're on blood thinners, so it's the big thing of how your body reacts to having contact and whatnot. So he is, as of now, expected to start at left tackle as well. If things progress differently, obviously DJ Humphries then will slide into the left tackle position. But for now, everything's looking good for the Rams, fully healthy. The big question will be how the back and the blood clots react once you start actually hitting with big bodies on Sunday. But looking good so far.
Yeah, Ryan Dyrud, suddenly the NFC West Huddle vet. Been loving to have you. Looking forward to talking football with you all year. Bailey, let's go over to you. Welcome back to the Huddle. It's been a while since we've seen you. Injuries were the story of the Niners season last year. How are you guys looking heading into Week 1?
I was going to say injuries is a word I am so familiar with saying. I feel like on this podcast or the show, too, just because of last season. And as you mentioned, that was the storyline. That's really all I talked about. Anybody who talked about the 49ers talked about last season. Really fast, I do have to make one quick comment about Kyler Murray saying that he thinks Arizona could have the best offense this season. he is my fantasy quarterback this year, so I would love if that happened, if he somehow is able to make that happen. So knock on wood, fingers crossed for my fantasy team's sake that actually comes to fruition. Now to the task at hand, though, the San Francisco 49ers. It's like when we talk about March Madness, teams that get hot at the right time, teams that are able to be healthy at the right time. That is what is happening for the San Francisco 49ers team. The big storyline, wide receiver Juwan Jennings, who went out with a calf injury during training camp on July 27th. We didn't see him back out on the training camp field, the practice field, for the rest of training camp. We didn't see him until Monday. Now, some people thought that his injury maybe wasn't as bad as he made it seem, that he was maybe holding out because of a contract dispute. He wanted more money because he really slid into that wide receiver one role for the 49ers last season when Brandon Ayuk went down, and he will basically start that season, this season in that same role. But he is healthy. Kyle Shanahan yesterday, the Niners head coach, saying that it is likely that Jennings will be a go come their Week 1 matchup in Seattle, which kind of leads me into another topic I'll touch more on a little later, likely. But the Niners play 3 divisional opponents in the first 5 weeks, so they don't really have time to shake off the rust slowly. They've got to jump right into it, and that is why it is so important that they are all getting healthy at this right time heading into Week 1.
Yeah, an all-important game over here in Seattle for the Seahawks, and we'll get into the matchup later, as Bailey mentioned. Things looking pretty clean on the injury front. Standout rookie wideout Torrey Horton was a full participant in practice on Wednesday after missing the 3rd preseason game, and over a week of practice after leaving that 2nd preseason game early. The one concern, Uchenna Nwosu, edge rusher, he's working his way back from off-season knee surgery. He was limited on Wednesday. Mike McDonald not really providing any additional information at his weekly pressure, so he's definitely a question mark heading into the weekend. Wouldn't be surprised if he missed that game in Week 1, hopefully back in Week 2 if he's not able to go this weekend. As for the biggest storyline of the week so far, it's been about restoring the Seahawks' once feared home field advantage from 2012 to 2019. This is a stat from ESPN's Brady Henderson. The Seahawks had a .750 winning percentage at home, good for 2nd best in the league. But over the last 4 seasons, it has not been that at all. They are tied for 20th with a record below 500, which is crazy to say when you think about the Seattle Seahawks and what they used to be with their home field advantage. And they finished last season just 3-6 at home. Mike McDonald says it's an emphasis this year protecting home turf. He talked about needing to start faster at home than they did last season in his first year as head coach. And one change he mentioned was switching up his team's pregame routine, among a couple of other things. We're going to see how those adjustments play out on Sunday in what Bailey said. It is a crucial divisional matchup with the 49ers at Lumen Field. All right, let's go to our second topic. What is something intriguing that you're most looking forward to seeing from your team this weekend with the games actually counting? Is it a specific player? Is it a new scheme? Maybe a rookie in a big role, new player on the roster? Ryan, you're first. What do you got for us?
Yeah, really excited to see how this running game shapes out. Obviously, Kyren Williams just given the big 3-year extension, and he's ecstatic, talking about, his mom is not going to have to ever work again, and obviously he's been the workhorse in this backfield. But they drafted Blake Corum last year in the 3rd round. They drafted Jarquez Hunter this year, who had a standout camp. He was one of the kind of talks of the town of being a player that's just, runs bully ball, but he also has like that explosiveness that the Rams have lacked in the running game. So all the talk has been of like this 3-headed monster attack that Sean McVay can employ. However, what we've seen Sean McVay do is say this over the years, and yet he basically runs with a one running back approach. And even last year, every week it seemed like Blake Corum was going to get more play. We would never see him on the field. It ended up being Kyren Williams for 95% of the snaps. Now, part of that is in this Sean McVay offense, the pass protection is such a huge aspect of the running back's game. You got to be able to block. You got to be able to call out checks and got to be able to recognize which blitzers are coming in. And so our anticipation was that Blake Corum didn't quite pick that up as a true rookie. So this year and this week, in Week 1, it'll be fun to see if Blake Corum's improved in that regard, if Jarquez Hunter was able to improve in that over training camp, and so they can let Kyren Williams not be on the field 95% of the time and get some spells. So a lot of other storylines, Ethan, we can talk about, but I won't take the whole time. So the running room is really where I'm looking, as they're going to want to run the ball against Houston, take some of the pressure off of Matthew Stafford and that pass rush with obviously Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter over there in Houston. So how they deploy these 3 backs will be really interesting to see.
Well, it's Bailey, let's go over to you. What are you most looking forward to seeing from the Niners?
Okay, I'm going to cheat here a little bit and give you 3 things, but I'll just touch on each of them lightly. I want to see how this defense improves under Robert Saleh. They were under Nick Sorensen last year. The Niners defense ranked 18th in stopping the run. They allowed on average just over 124 yards per game. That was a topic, an area of focus as soon as Robert Saleh came in. So I want to see, and we may not see it in week 1, but as the season goes, I do want to see how that run defense progresses for this 49ers team. The other thing I want to see, kicker Jake Moody. He was a storyline all last season, really the second half after he came back from that injury. Had a roller coaster, rocky season, kind of roller coaster again in the preseason. So a lot of fans are fed up with Moody, if I'm being completely honest. They took him in the 3rd round of the draft a couple of years ago, so he's not going to be a guy that they're just kind of going to kick to the curb lightly. They are going to have him hang around for quite a while. I think it would take something extreme for him to lose his job, but they brought in kicker competition at the beginning of training camp, I think, to make sure that Moody knew everyone kind of is replaceable, right? You do have to do your job, and obviously being a kicker is one of the most important jobs on an NFL roster. So it'll be interesting to see how his season goes. And the last thing, everybody's been talking about, how is Brock Purdy going to do now that he doesn't have his weapons? The only weapon he really lost this offseason was Deebo Samuel, who went to the Washington Commanders. I looked up some stats and I wrote them down because I cannot remember all these numbers off the top of my head. George Kittle had 92 targets last year. Kyle Juszczyk, the 49ers fullback, he had 19. Christian McCaffrey had 19, which, by the way, watching him play this season is going to be really interesting and likely fun. You don't want to be on the receiving end of an angry Christian McCaffrey. Ricky Pearsall will be playing his first full season in the NFL. He had 46 targets. And Juwan Jennings, who's now back from that calf injury, 113 targets. Brandon Ayuk, who will miss the first half-ish of this season. They're hoping a little less. 45 targets. Deebo Samuel, 81. So Brock Purdy has most of the same weapons that he had last season. I'll be curious to see how his game has progressed and how his connection with each of those receivers has gotten better throughout the years.
Yeah, well, Mike McDonald going to be looking to shutting down Brock Purdy. That matchup will be very intriguing. We are going to talk about it. I will go next with the Seahawks. What I'm most interested to see, for me, it has to be this offense, and by proxy, the offensive line. Clint Kubiak bringing in a totally new offensive scheme. It should look night and day different from Ryan Grubb's air raid approach last year. It's an offensive system built heavily on the run game, so that puts the offensive line right in the spotlight. The offense isn't going to do much if the offensive line is full of holes. It's a position group that has been a thorn in the side of the Hawks for the better part of a decade. And we saw the starters play one drive in that second preseason game. They marched down the field against the Chiefs for a touchdown. And I don't know if I'm just falling for it again, but the offensive line looked dominant, especially rookie left guard Gray Zabel and third-year right guard Anthony Bradford, who is in a positional battle. By the way, at right guard, he looked incredible. It seems like the scheme really fits his play style. I came on this show right after that game, and I talked about how excited the scheme and the line's play had me feeling. I feel like I'm just falling for it again. But even though it was just a preseason game, so Sunday is the time to see if the improvement is legit and if my optimism is warranted. I don't know. I'm nervous. On top of Zabel and Bradford shining in the preseason, right tackle Abe Lucas finally looks fully healthy for the first time in 2 years. The Seahawks like how he looks so much that they gave him a 3-year extension earlier today. That bodes well for how his health is actually feeling, and more so than how we can just interpret by our observations. So having him healthy on the right side of the line should be a game changer. So I'm very anxious to see how they do against Nick Bosa and that Niners defense. Blake, let's go over to you now with the Cardinals. What are you most looking forward to from your team in Week 1?
Yeah, I'm really excited to see the coming home of the OG, Calais Campbell, year 18 for the veteran defensive tackle. Started his career here in Arizona. The only time that the Cardinals have been to the Super Bowl, that was his rookie season. And now all these years later, through 6 Pro Bowls and 3 All-Pro selections, he's come back to Arizona. He just got voted a captain this week, brings so much knowledge and wisdom. He just turned 39 recently, carries a lot of wisdom of the game, but he says he still wants to go out there and dominate. So I'm intrigued to see how much he has still left in the tank, how much fire he can still get after it at the point of attack, and really how that will fuel the rest of this Cardinals defense that has been overhauled this offseason with additions like Josh Sweat from the Philadelphia Eagles, the Super Bowl champs, and then returning of veteran leaders like Buda Baker and Mac Wilson. So it's going to be an intriguing year for the Cardinal defense, and I'm excited to see how Calais Campbell plays into that.
All right, let's move on. Let's get into the Week 1 matchups. It's been mentioned we got one divisional game this week as my Seahawks are going to take on Bailey's Niners, as we mentioned. So, Bailey, let's go to you first. How are you feeling about this matchup on Sunday? What's your score prediction for Sunday at Lumen Field?
Ethan, we talked about it earlier this week. I think that this is going to be a really close game, which is great just for football fans in general. Maybe not so great for either one of these teams, but I think this one's going to come down to the last 4 or 5 minutes. I do think the Niners edge out the Seahawks. I did look at some stats. I know you talked about how big the Seahawks are making it. They want to bring back that home field advantage. I'm pretty sure the stat I saw from Vivid Seats is that 53% of tickets sold are to Niners fans. Niners fans travel really well, and that could be the difference maker for them. I do think the other difference maker for the Niners in this one, they had a really long offseason. The Niners missed the playoffs last year. They had a lot of injuries. Those guys are all back. They're playing angry. They're playing with their pants on fire, and there is just so much talent on this Niners team still, and that is not something I want to be on the receiving end of. And I think Seattle will do well. I think the final score is maybe 27-24, 3-point game, 1-score game. But yeah, I think the Niners will take it.
Yeah, for me, I'm definitely nervous. It's such a big game in Week 1. The offense is so new, untested. They're going to have to figure it out right away. And, I talked about restoring home field advantage. Bailey, that stat that you just listed, I hadn't heard 53% of the tickets going to the Niners. So it's going to be interesting. The Hawks are trying to combat that with fans selling season tickets to road fans. So, we're going to see what the atmosphere looks like at Lumen Field, but that's definitely an emphasis for this coaching staff. But I'm also feeling confident in this defense. Mike Macdonald's second year as head coach, returning just about everybody, the starters on defense. I think Brock Purdy's going to have a really tough time moving the ball against this group, especially looking at how the last matchup with these teams played out last season after the Hawks had added Ernest Jones and really turned a corner on defense. We don't need to look at that first matchup. Looking at the second one, Purdy, he was limited to just 159 yards through a pick in a 20-17 win for the Hawks on the road in Santa Clara. I think this one plays out in a similar fashion. I know the Niners are more healthy, but I really like what the Seahawks are going to be looking like on defense. The Hawks are going to make this a gritty, physical game. I think it's a low-scoring affair, and I think, Bailey, you said a 3-point win for the Niners. I think the Seahawks come out on top. Give me the Hawks by 4, 24-20, as they get off to a good start at home in 2025. All right, Blake, your Cardinals are on the road against the Saints to start the season. How are you feeling about the Cards' chances, and what's your score prediction for the game on Sunday?
Yeah, opening up at the Superdome where the Super Bowl was last year. It's going to be a fun environment, challenging environment for the Cardinals to play in this Sunday. And I think these are both franchises that are kind of similar in some ways. They're both kind of finding their new identity under first-time head coaches. Jonathan Gannon now entering his 3rd year. First-time head coach for Kellen Moore taking over this Saints franchise. Spencer Rattler is a Phoenix native. He played at Pinnacle Prep just up the road. So this will be an interesting game for him as starting the season as a starter. He got 6 starts last year in place of Derek Carr, who was injured for a lot of last year, ultimately retired this offseason. So him getting the start from the get-go against his hometown team should add some fuel to the fire for him. But ultimately, I think this Cardinals defense really shows up. I think Kyler Murray, Marvin Harrison Jr. are really going to take that next step. Marvin Harrison Jr. putting on 10 pounds this offseason. Trey McBride could be playing at a potential all-pro level. So give me Arizona winning this one 27-13 and starting the Week 1 off with a victory.
All right, 3 for 3 with our panel taking their own team. Let's go over to LAFB Network's Ryan Dyrud. Ryan, the Rams taking on the Texans. Can we make it 4 for 4? Do you think the Rams take this one, and what's your score prediction?
Oh, man, I mean, this is a tough matchup to open the season. I feel like the Houston Texans are one of those kind of unsung, forgotten teams in the NFL, but they've been to the playoffs back-to-back years. Obviously had a great win, a dominant win last year against the Los Angeles Chargers, picking off Justin Herbert, I think, 4 times, more than he had all season long. So, I mean, it's a real deal defense. They got C.J. Stroud, who obviously played his college ball at Ohio State, but he's an L.A. kid, went to Rancho Cucamonga High School out here, so he gets his little homecoming party coming out. And obviously we have the questions with the Rams, and Stafford's back, and you know, Larry Jackson's blood clots and what, which I won't get into more. So it's going to be a really tough matchup. The Rams are a 3-point favorite at home, meaning it's basically a push. It's a pick 'em. And I do think the Rams lean a little bit more in this game. I think having that home field advantage will help a little bit. Plus, I just think all the conversation of the offseason, that defensive line that might have one of the best pass rushes in all of football when you look at the likes of Verse, Braden Fiske, Kobe Turner, and others, Byron Young. I think it's going to be great. The 3 players to watch for with Houston are 3 former USC Trojans. Kalen Bullock, their starting safety, was an almost defensive rookie of the year with what he was able to do. Jalen Smith, they drafted this year, and Woody Marks as a running back with their injuries at running back. Obviously, Nick Chubb starting for them this week. After being injured, we could see Woody Marks get some action as well. So look for those guys. And finally, Christian Kirk not going to play this week for Houston as he's battling an injury. So, you know, you look to Nico and what he's able to do on the outside and what the Rams secondary can do to stop him. So going to be a great battle. Obviously not a playoff matchup considering they're 2 different conferences, but maybe a potential Super Bowl matchup. Who knows what we look at. But I do think the Rams edge them out. Apparently the panel's loving these 20s. I like 27 also for the Rams. So I'll go 27 Rams, 17 Texans. They get it done by 10 and cover with plenty.
Wow. There we go. A lot of confidence in LA with Ryan Dyrud. We'll be back here next week to see if all of our predictions come to fruition. But that's going to do it for now for this edition of the NFC West Huddle. Be sure to check out Ryan at LAFBnetwork.com. Remember, you can see full episodes of all of us, full episodes of the Huddle on YouTube and the Fox Local app. Thanks for watching, everyone. We'll see you next week.